You're allowed to start over, even if your spouse doesn't agree, even if your kids think you're crazy, even if your friends don't understand, and even if you're 50 or 60 or 70, you're allowed. It's true. But here's the problem. You're waiting for someone to tell you that. You're waiting for permission. And we've talked about permission, and we're going to talk about it until you guys actually give yourself permission. So nobody else is going to give it to you, right? Because your reinvention threatens their sense of stability, right? So they'll say things like, why would you leave now? You're so close to retirement. So the translation is, please don't change. Change scares me. And we've talked over and over about this. We're going to do it again. So welcome to Too Late My Ass. I'm Faye Chappell. And this week, we're talking about permission psychology. Why your brain is wired to seek approval before it even makes big changes, right? Why nobody's giving you that approval, essentially, right? And how to give yourself permission anyway. So let's go.
Ever feel like life passed you by while you were being responsible? Like everyone else got a head start on success, on happiness or purpose, and now you're just trying not to fall asleep during your own life. Well, welcome to Too Late My Ass. This is the podcast for anyone who's ever thought it was too late to dream again, to build again, or begin again. So spoiler alert, it's not. I'm Faye Chappell, and I'm here to help you burn the rule book, rewrite the script, and become the main character in your next chapter. So whether you're 39, 49, 59, or 79, this isn't about getting your groove back. It's about finally giving yourself permission to freaking exist exactly as you are. So hit subscribe, tell that inner critic to take several seats, and let's make this your comeback era, because too late, my ass.
Let's talk a little bit about story time. So when I decided to leave corporate, I didn't tell anyone at first, right? Not my spouse, not my friends, not my family, because I knew what would happen. They would freak out and they'd say, why would you leave now? You're at the peak of your career. Have you heard that? I know I've heard that a lot. What about a pension? What about your health insurance? What if it doesn't work out? And I was ready for that conversation, but I wasn't ready yet, if you know what I mean, because I was still trying to give myself permission to actually do it. It's really hard because, as you guys know, whenever you say you're going to leave, what's the first thing people say? Oh, but you have great benefits and you have great hours and you don't have to worry about, all the entrepreneurial stuff, right? So I sat with it for months, journaling, thinking, planning. And then one day I decided I'm doing this. Not because I had a perfect plan, because I didn't. Not because I had clarity, because I couldn't not do it anymore. Does that make sense? So everyone I told said the exact thing that I was expecting, right? Are you sure? This feels really risky. And the translation came basically saying, I'm scared, so don't do this. And I told all my friends over and over, and they kept saying, but you're so successful in corporate, and you're such a corporate person. Why would you walk away from it? Which really means people saying, I don't understand, right? That really scary. Why would you walk away? But I knew that I had no choice because of the circumstance of my life. But I also knew that I had to make that decision myself. So when people said, what if you fail? Because they were worried about me and they wanted me to play safe, I realized that nobody was going to give me the permission or say, great job, go for it. Not because they didn't love me, but because my change really destabilized what they thought, right? Their brains had a model of who I was, successful corporate executive. Their brains had a model of what I should be doing. And when I said I'm leaving, their brains went, error, doesn't compute. And when I said I'm doing this, they tried to talk me out of it. Not to hurt me, to protect their own real sense of predictability. But here's the thing. I didn't need their permission. I needed mine. And once I gave it to myself, everything else fell into place. Not perfectly and not easily, but it happened because I stopped waiting for someone else to tell me that it was okay. Because at the end of the day, I didn't really have that luxury for somebody to tell me it was okay. I wanted someone to agree with me, but I just didn't have anyone there who would do it. So let's talk about why we essentially wait for permission, because it is a neuroscience, right? If you've joined us before, you know we like to talk about these things until you get them through your head. So permission psychology is really your brain essentially is wired to seek approval from the group before making any change, right? That's why it's called permission psychology. And it goes back to really evolutionary history, because for most of human history, survival equaled group approval, right? If the tribe said, yes, you can do this, your brain went, okay, it's safe. It's why we all join memberships and communities, etc., right? And if the tribe said no, your brain interpreted that as this could get you kicked out. And you don't want to get kicked out because you would die if you get kicked out. So your brain learned, don't make big moves without permission. Got that? And that's the safety signal, really, right? Because your brain interprets permission as a safety signal. So when someone says, you should do this, your brain releases that dopamine that says, okay, we're safe. The tribe approves. Let's go. And we know this. We have been having members in our mastermind, in our community for years and years and years. And when Stacy and I say, yes, it's safe, you can do this, that's generally when people go ahead and try it, right? But when someone says, I don't think you should do this, you know, their brain activates that danger gland, right? And the tribe is against it. So abort mission, basically. And that's why you freeze. Not because you don't want to change, but because your brain thinks that change without approval essentially can equal death or dying, right? There is that group stability bias. So here's the other thing. The people around you who are invested in you staying the same, not because they're bad people, but because your predictability gives them stability, right? So you have to make sure you understand that. It could be your spouse knows exactly what to expect from you. Your kids have a mental model of who you are. Your friends understand your role in the group, right? So when you say, I'm changing, their brains go into threat mode, right? Because if you change, they have to adapt. And adaptation is usually really uncomfortable. So they resist, they push back, they try to convince you to stay the same, not to hurt you, to essentially protect you, so that they can keep their own sense of stability, right? And we see that all over and over and over again. So let's bust some of those myths right now. Myth number one, which is starting over is selfish. You hear that all the time. And you're probably worried about, starting over if you tell your kids that you want to do something new and, it freaks them out a bit because your kids are used to doing what you always do. So starting over isn't selfish. It's staying stuck is really self-abandonment, really, right? So you're not being selfish by wanting more from your life. You're just being honest. And honesty is really the kindest thing that you can offer yourself and the people around you. So remember that. Myth number two, usually people say, I need my family support before I can change. No, you don't. You don't need support before you change. Their support is really nice, but it's not required. So you can do hard things without everyone agreeing. In fact, you probably will have to do hard things without anyone agreeing forever, because major change is always destabilizing and people resist that, right? And then that leads you to number three, which is if they loved me, they'd support me. They do love you. That's why they're scared, right? That's why their resistance isn't about love. It's about fear. They're afraid that you'll fail. They're afraid you'll change and that they won't recognize you anymore, right? They'll still love you, but they're afraid. So keep that in mind. So when you're thinking about other people and their perception of your change, you have to understand that they are doing it from fear, not because of anything else. They want you to succeed, right? And that brings me to myth number four, which is I should wait until I have clarity before I tell anyone, right? No, you'll never have perfect clarity. Clarity comes after you commit, not before. So if you wait for clarity before you ask for support, then waiting is forever, essentially, right? So you have to recognize the fact that you have to take that leap. You're not going to have all the answers, and that is okay. So myth number 5 is, if I start over, I'm throwing away everything I've built. You're not. You're building on everything you've built. Starting over doesn't erase the past. It doesn't. It leverages it. Your experience, your skills, your wisdom, that all comes with you. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from essentially equipped, right? That's what Too Late My Ass is all about, right? It's about recognizing that you're not reinventing completely new direction. You are taking everything you've learned and recreating something that really is meaningful to you. So here's the brain hack. If you want to start over without waiting for permission, you need to really self-authorize, right? So here are the steps. I want you to identify what you're waiting for permission to do and be specific, okay? If you've joined us in the past, you've done similar exercises. This one's a little unique, but I want you to be specific. You might say, I'm waiting for permission to leave my job. Or I'm waiting for permission to start a business. That's a big one. And a lot of the people that we work with are in that realm, right? They're waiting for somebody to say, yes, this is a good idea. I'm waiting for permission to move to a new city. How many of you have live where you live because that's just where you've always lived? You've not really thought about moving somewhere new. Or I'm waiting for permission to end a relationship. Oh, that's a big one for a lot of people. Whatever it is, I want you to name it, okay? Just name it. So whatever it is, stop right now, write it down, okay? And then step 2 is, I want you to identify who you're waiting for permission from. So who needs to say yes before you actually feel safe moving forward? Is it your spouse, your kids, your parents, your boss, your friends? This is really important. Write down their names. Okay? Do it right now. And then number 3 is, I want you to ask yourself, what are they protecting by saying no? This is really, really important. Their resistance is not about you. It's about them. What are they afraid of losing if you change? Stability, predictability, the version of you, who you are, right? You need to understand their fear, because that will help you separate their stuff from your stuff. So for example, if you all of a sudden say, I want to get healthy, so I'm going to start going to a gym or a yoga class or something, and if some people might go, no, it's too late, or you're a little too old to start that, and are you sure you can handle it? I'm not sure. So it's maybe that they don't want to start it and they want to keep you in the same bubble that you are in. So I want you to go to step 4, which is write yourself a permission slip. Literally get a piece of paper and write at the top, permission slip, and then write, I, Faye Chappell, give permission to myself to whatever it is that I'm trying to do. I don't need anyone else's approval. I trust myself to handle whatever comes next. And I want you to sign it and date it and put it somewhere where you're going to see it each and every day, because you've committed to giving yourself permission. For those of you who've done this exercise with us, I think we did it maybe 3 or 4 months ago on a Sunday morning ritual. I would like to ask you the question, did you actually do it? Because you gave yourself permission, but did you actually follow through? If you haven't, this is your opportunity to start again. So step 5 is, I want you to make one decision this week that's based on the self-authorization, right? Not 10 decisions, 1. What's one small move you can make this week that says, I'm doing this even without permission? Maybe it's researching a new career, or scheduling a conversation with someone, or updating your resume, or maybe it's just saying out loud, I'm starting over. One move, that's it. One. Give yourself permission to do it. That's your permission slip exercise for this week, okay? So here's what I want you to understand. You're not going to get permission, not the way you want it, not from the people you want it from. And that is okay, because you don't need their permission. You need yours. And once you give it to yourself, the people who love you will adapt. Maybe not immediately and maybe not perfectly, but eventually they'll see, oh, yeah, you're serious about this. You're actually doing it. And they will adjust, and some of them will come around and support you and some won't, right? And that's painful, but it's also real, because not everyone is supposed to come with you to your second act. Some people are meant for the first act only. That's okay. You can love them, you can honor what they gave you in the time frame, but you don't have to stay small to keep them comfortable, right? So if you decide, hey, I want to do a podcast because I have things to say, and some friends say, you know, who's going to listen to that? Who cares? You make your decision, you're going to do it. So this week, I want you to practice self-authorization. Give yourself permission out loud, okay? I'm allowed to want something different. I'm allowed to start over. I'm allowed to walk away from what no longer fits. I want you to say it until your brain actually believes it, all right? So here's your homework this week. You don't think I've already given you some? We're just recapping. Number 1, write down what you're waiting for permission to do, and I want you to be specific. 1 sentence. 1. 2, write down who you're waiting for permission from and list their names. I'm just regurgitating everything I just said, so make sure you're listening. Number 3, ask, what are they protecting by saying no? This isn't about blaming them. It's about understanding their resistance so you can separate it from your decision. Number 4 is write yourself the permission slip, right? You remember it. I, and then your name, give myself permission to do something. Sign it, date it, put it somewhere visible. And finally, make one self-authorized decision this week. Just one small move, right? And just say, I'm doing this anyway, regardless. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be true. And if you want the full ritual practice, breath work, meditation, journaling prompts by giving yourself permission, we're going to run that again. We're going to run it on Sunday morning in our ritual, and that is on Sundays, 7 a.m. on YouTube. You'll have the links below, or on LinkedIn. I think Stacy puts us everywhere. So we're doing that permission ritual, and it's going to be really powerful. So check the link in the show notes here and join us. And if you're in the inner circle, this week's backstage episode is really raw. I'm going to share the permissions that I still struggle with myself in the areas where I'm still kind of waiting for approval once in a while, because this work is really ongoing, even for me, even for Stacy. And this drops right after this podcast. So I want you to join us online. This is for members only. So if you want to join us, feel free. The link is down in the show notes as well. And if you need a daily reminder that you don't need anyone's permission, we got you. You can buy our merch, shirts and t-shirts and hats, you name it, at our store. The link is below as well. So, all right, that's it for this week. Give yourself permission and then do something. Do the thing. Okay? Do the thing. I'll see you on Sunday for the ritual component. Again, Sunday at 7 a.m. Can't wait to see you. And we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Too Late My Ass. If this episode made you feel seen or heard or a little more ready to take your damn life back, then go ahead and hit that follow button. If you want to go deeper, grab your free comeback kit at toolatemyass.com and join the Act 2 Insiders list for weekly tools, community, and reminders that your story is far from over. Remember, you're not done. You're just getting started. Too Late My Ass, produced by the City Media Group.